You need hands to hold someone you care for. You need hands to show that you're sincere. When you feel nobody wants to know you, you need hands to brush away the tears. When you hold a brand new baby, you need tender hands to guide them on their way. You need hands to thank the Lord for living and forgiving us this day. You need hands to show the world you're happy. And you need hands when you have to stop the bus. But the hands we love so dear are the hands we love to hear, are the hands that you give to us. Everybody are the hands that you give to us. Helen, I don't believe it. Fantastic. That's so wonderful.
Hello. Welcome in. That's fabulous, Bri. That made me smile. That put a smile on my face. Somebody's listening. Oh my God. That was a fun stream to do. I liked that one with the Holy Grail. Hello, Paul. So let's see. We got Ulick, number one, my partner in crime, Sarah, Paul, Bri, and Arkash. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Paul, you're in 6th place. No medals for you today. Just kidding. Okay, so what are we talking about? So I found this neat little video recently. And it's really fun. So, you know, Ulick and I were sitting here and we were just kind of watching it and talking about it and thought this would make a great stream to share with our friends. So we decided to go live and open for discussion, I suppose. Hand gestures. So we'll give that a thumbs up. Okay.
Yeah, so while I'm sitting here beside just
yes.
If there's any questions?
Yes, come closer. I'll scoot myself. Come sit in my lap. Tell Santa Claus what you want for Christmas. Don't forget to use the proper hand gestures for world domination. Okay. So it comes from, oops. Hello, William. So it comes from Lindy Beige, I don't know. Channel, and you know he's got this to say. So if the link's in the description, and so you know, go give him a thumbs up for giving us something to talk about today, and possibly a follow. Okay. So here he is. He's going to talk about hand gestures.
Hello. Today you find me resplendent, or at least, well, I hope you find me resplendent. I suppose I shouldn't really be putting words into your mouth, but I'm trying to resplend in the garb of an academic, because in this video, which has been sponsored very enthusiastically by the Great Courses Plus, much more about that later, I'm going to be going through the 16 basic scholars' cradles and try to introduce you, if you like, to the world of gesturing in academic circles. In the world of rhetoric, it's used by politicians and people at conferences and, of course, university lecturers. It could be that you've been doing this for years and just want a little bit of a brush up on the latest terms. It could be that you're new to the world of lecturing. You've just become a lecturer. Perhaps you've been invited to a conference and you're going to be speaking in front of a lot of people. You need a few pointers to give you a bit of confidence. It could also be that you've been faking it for years and you've never really been taught it, but you think you're doing it right and would like some reassurance that you are doing it right. Well, I hope I can reassure. There are, of course, plenty of cradles. I won't be going through all of them, just the ones which are today considered the 16 basic. And there is actually very soon available a t-shirt with something very similar to this design, and it'll act as a reminder, perhaps. So that's one way you can remind yourself, but there are others. Now, the first of these is the apex. Now, if you think of the scholar's cradle, you probably think of the apex cradle. This is the archetypal one, which is why it's being used on this design of t-shirt, also quite soon available. But this is not just a commercial for t-shirts. Now, this, yes, it's called the apex for a reason, partly the shape, but also it's the one perhaps you should be striving for. If you can carry this off in your lecturing career, then well done you. But it's really, and this is the main thing I'm going to say about it, it's really not for beginners. There are many scholars' cradles you could pick from, and you don't need to know many at all. If you have 2 or 3 really solid scholars' cradles and you can use them really well, that's enough to start with. You don't have to go for the apex, but a lot of people will say, show me this one. How do you do this one? Okay, right. Well, about the shape of it, it's fingertips. It's fingertips. Don't press in. Don't use the joints of your fingers. Don't, for goodness sake, don't go clasp your hands together. This is praying. This is an apex cradle. So it's just fingertips. There are 2 main ways of doing it. There's the straight-fingered apex cradle, and you could also you can form a constant arch with your fingers curving like this, so you end up with something like a ball. A danger is that people pulse between the 2. Don't do this. There are various pulses that I'll be talking about that the various cradles can make use of. But this is bad. If you pulse like this, you've got some weird creature that will distract people. People in the audience will be just looking at this weird pulsing thing, and they won't be listening to what you're saying. And largely the point of the scholar's cradle, okay, yes, it may make you look more scholarly, and maybe that's what you want, to win friends and influence people. But actually, you are trying to get across information to your audience. You want your audience to be listening at all the important points and to get the meaning of what you're saying. So if you distract them with pulsing like this, that's not doing the job. The apex cradle has to be established. Think of it like a cathedral. So these are the various fluting columns that come together in the great vault at the roof of the cathedral. And you may know this about cathedrals. They're very big and heavy and don't move much. Okay, so you establish where your cathedral is and leave it there. What a lot of people will do is they will move around it. So if they want to say something like, well, you might think that, but it turns out that that's not actually true. You see, I left the apex cradle where it was, and I moved my head around it and back. That might be an alien way of moving for you. So maybe that's one of the reasons you shouldn't be starting with the apex cradle. And of course, it completely ruins the stability of this if you turn with it. If you turn with your apex cradle, the power of it is lost. If you do need to turn, I would advise, say, drop into a front cage, something like this, and then turn with that, answer that person's question, and then come back and then slowly reestablish your apex cradle again. One of the many reasons I don't like the apex cradle is that it can make you look like a pretentious twonk. If you're sitting there like this as your audience comes in and finds its seats you better come up with something pretty good, because this is a sort of, hey everyone, I've got an amazing lecture for you and I really know my stuff sort of pose, and you better establish that you are a bit ace in the first minute of your lecture. Otherwise you're going to start to look a bit of a fake if you've started off with an apex cradle. But you might, towards the end of a lecture, think, okay, I'm just going to use it once, just towards the end, when I talk about all the various work we've done and how it all came together and how the results of our experiments were eventually a success, and this is how we were able to establish this thing that I've been talking to you about. I say that you shouldn't move it. Actually, that's not completely true. You can move it, but if you do any big movements with an apex cradle, it looks rubbish. But if you make the tiny movements, like that pulsing I said, for instance, to avoid, if you pulse very slowly and say, yes, I've heard people make that argument as well, but I think you'll find that they're actually mistaken. And if you do that very slowly, that can add power. And a very, very tiny movement of something that you've established in one place for ages becomes really noticeable and therefore powerful. So if you do just move very slightly and then very slightly back to your established position, then that can be very, very powerful. So there you go, the apex cradle. Your fingers should be apart. This is one of the three basic cages, and I'm going to go straight on to the second one, which is the front.
Okay, go ahead.
Can I ask you to run a speech, do a speech maybe? The Great Dictator. I haven't seen it in a long time. It's Charlie Chaplin's speech. Can you run it?
Yeah, let me see if
and
I can
then
find
we'll talk about this, just to see when we, with the hand gestures, what many that we learn here in this, to see it's for Annie. You know what I mean? Like, not that I watch, but
right.
Which one could you give? Will that give you his hand?
I don't know. No, he doesn't even use his hands, does he?
I don't know.
Let's see.
I'd imagine.
Nope.
No.
Not once.
Not once.
They're at the end.
Oh.
Okay.
Right.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap my screens for a minute, and we're going to talk about the apex.
Yeah.
I found this website to be quite interesting. I'm going to pop it over here, though. So. Okay. You need hands. There you go. So some people have put some answers. We've got Trump. William has got Trump making this hand gesture a lot. Elon Musk makes this hand gesture a lot. So, okay. So this site right here, this is Science of People Behaviors. This is in the body language department. 60 hand gestures you should be using and their meaning. And I mean, this is the most TED Talkers used an average of 465 hand gestures. And just the least popular TED Talk users used 272, and the most popular used 465, almost double between popular. So that's how much your hand gestures could possibly influence. So it brought up a ton of questions. So they just noticed this little similar, this little thing, and they go, well, why is that? Why is it important? Why do people use them? And how can everyone use their hand gestures to go viral in their TED Talk? So it's got some science facts here. That you're born to speak with your hands. Research has found that infants who use more hand gestures at 18 months have greater language abilities later on. Hand gestures speak to great intelligence, and this is actually taken advantage of in connective parenting. So a lot of these good, whatever you want to call them, parents are teaching their kids sign language before they can even talk. I did it, so I understand why it's powerful. And hand gestures make people listen to you. This person says, they found that gestures make people pay attention to the acoustics of speech, and says that gestures are not merely add-ons to language, but they may actually be a fundamental part of it. We can't help it. Hand gestures come naturally to us, and found that even blind people use hand gestures when speaking to other blind people. And they can't see them, they still use their hands. Gesturing helps you access memories. Using hand gestures while you speak not only helps others remember what you say, but it also helps you speak quickly and effectively. One study found that forcing children to gesture while they explain how to solve math problems actually helped them learn new math problem strategies. That's very interesting. Helps you understand more. There's also research that shows that allowing kids to doodle or to doodling during lectures while you're taking notes allows you to retain more memory. I found that to be interesting. So they give you some directions, like baseball: stay in the box, don't go outside the box. Here's the difference: stay in the box. That's kind of interesting. We're talking about the black cube and Saturn and stuff being a box, and it linked to business and things like that. I find that to be an interesting term that's used there. It's distracting to be outside the box. There's a spectrum. They're great up to a certain point. You call this the jazz hand spectrum. Do you have jazz hands?
Jizzy.
Maybe. This is ideal. Okay, so we'll scroll down. I think that's fair. I'll put the link in if you're interested in the science, because I'm sure a lot of people get bored with my science stuff, but I find that interesting anyway. So if you're also nerdy like me.
Right, can you lie with your hands?
So let's talk about of course you could. So I'm going to go down to, so here they've got all these different types, what they mean. You see them, a lot of them, they're going to be ones you know, but we're going to go down to where we're talking about. So if I'm giving, a presentation to sell a client or something in business, are you going to let me be the advertising for your soap? I'm going to be a master at hand gestures. So let's go down here to the steeple fingers. That's one we'll talk about. And this is going to get us into. Let me find it. I thought the I'm pretty one was quite interesting. You mentioned the thumbs up. Better if I could do this way. Sorry. Maybe that was, maybe it was the steeple up here. So maybe that was what it was. Yeah, okay, there we go. So this one is of Kevin O'Leary's from the Shark Tank's Favorite. So if you watch that show, you might recognize it. A steeple is where you lightly tap the tips of your fingers together. It is seen as a wise gesture, but don't overdo it. These days, everyone is trying it out. And that's what that guy was saying over there when he was saying, this one, don't use this one unless you really are sure of what you're talking about. It means, it's to say, I've got my shit together. It's also called steepling because when it's done, it looks like the hands are pointed to the top of a steeple. This person who studied body movements found that confident, high-status people who don't use a lot of body gestures often steeple their hands to demonstrate a confident attitude. This includes people like lawyers, accountants, and investors, and that's why they get the Illuminati status because, well, they're all in clubs. According to the behavioral panel, when there is a large space between your thumb and your index finger, this indicates confidence. So that would be holding, doing it in this way where I'm that near spread fingered. My fingers are spread apart, but closer together creates a different, and no thumbs touching. Even more interesting, so thumbs can touch outward, but when you come up here, you don't want to have your thumbs touching. You don't want to be doing this. That's a form of prayer, right? Even more interesting is how the steeple can change during interactions. With milliseconds, the steeple can turn into fingers interlaced position and back to a steeple, signaling the ebb and flow of assurance and doubt. People can also turn the steeple into a prayer hands in an attempt to appear more godlike. Try it. Everybody try it. Try steepling right now. How do you feel? You might not feel like the Incredible Hulk, but do you feel more powerful?
Do
it.
Well, no, I can't.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that I can't.
You got Viking hand.
They just don't fit each other
Right.
like that. They don't interlock like that. That there, when I was trying to be hypnotized.
Yes. Okay.
That was one of the things that the hypnotist did. He said, "Keep your hands together like that," or whatever. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When whatever he was doing, but
Right.
I remember that with the hands. I
Right.
pretended, yeah, my hands are still together. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's what you're saying there. That shape, maybe, I don't know. That's just...
Well, I'll tell you why the hypnotist did it. So when I'm conning someone, or I'm, going to steal from them, Apollo shows this a lot. There's points. So they'll tap your shoulder, which the unconscious mind puts all of its attention to what's going on right here. I'm actually creating all of your attention over here. So you actually don't notice that I've just done this and stole your wallet. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm hypnotizing someone and I ask them to put their hands together, it causes the unconscious mind to focus here, and it's not paying attention to some of the peripheral that's going on.
Excellent. Right.
Hello, JP. Hello, Gladwin. Glad you're back. It's your apex finger. I call that the darts player. What are you saying up here? The panel's open if anyone is wanting to just pick this apart as a group. Otherwise, we'll just do it this way. Okay, I gotta go up a minute. You guys are so funny. So William tells us that in his, when he's lecturing, he's found that he does have natural hand movements. Oh, don't get me started on gestures. Yes, you get my pun. Oh, shit, you mean gestures. I thought I was being quite clever there, Gladwin. Kermit copies the hand gestures of Bill Gates. Bryce says that. Kermit the Frog, is that what we're talking about? The only hand gesture I use when I feel someone, the bird.
So, yet again, it's just left now to politicians and shysters. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, let's say
Con men.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So magicians are either stealing from you or they're showing you a trick. In some case, they show the trick in order to steal from you. That's what makes them a con. A regular magician shows you a trick.
Mm-hmm.
A con man uses that trick to steal from you. That's what politicians are doing.
Are they talking to people though as well?
Well, I think that's the magic. If you'll like me more if what I do when I'm conning you, if I'm conning you sweetly, giving you things, helping you, sincerely acting like I give a fuck, it doesn't feel so bad. I'll tell you why I know this works, because in the art of the con, having your heart broken is one of the easiest ones to do. In other words, mom falls in love, grandma falls in love with this man, and he steals all of her money, but she's had a good time, or he's had a good time, and the gold digger's off on their way, but they had a good time. So even after the con's gone and they're mad, there's a part of them that, well, if I'm going to get conned out of thousands of dollars,
I had a good time.
I had a good time. Mm-hmm. They were sweet to me, right? They showed me the world. That's why good con men make good movies. He showed me the world. He drained your bank account. Yeah, but I saw Paris.
I get it. I get it.
That's what politicians, they're sweet con men. They really do give you things. They really do make it worth your investment and time and energy to be a part of you're getting conned. They're dipping in your bank account.
And you still do it.
You still do it. You're hopeful maybe you're the one. Maybe they'll settle down and pick you as all the people they...
It's like that
Yeah.
Like, yeah, there's democracy. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there you
There's
go.
democracy.
It's the only show in town. But you think, like that,
It's funny you mentioned that
that's
quote.
the one I. What it was.
You mentioned that quote because earlier when you took the piss out of what I was researching, right?
Yeah,
You basically shunned me for a second.
Go.
Well, what you just mentioned, I actually have a tab on.
Okay.
So, in the history of cheating at cards, let me see if I can. It's not going to be on the screen yet because I've only got that one showing. But in the science of cheating at cards, actually, it was a video. There's an infamous cheater, and he was playing that game of I can't remember the name of it. Came out before blackjack. It was pre-blackjack. I was telling you about it, where they have all the cards and then you place your bets, and the dealer is the only one that the dealer literally is running the show. He decides who wins or loses because he knows the cards. And in this, there's a guy who was infamous for beating people at this game. He knew this game. And he lost everything he'd ever made. And when asked, one of his friends pulled him to the side and said, why are you playing this? You know it's rigged. And he said, because it's the only game in town. That's how addicted. That's the famous quote, comes from this con man who literally went down with nothing playing the very game that he conned everyone out of because he liked the art of the game and didn't matter that he lost. And so we get that saying that you just made from that right there. It's the only game in town. There wasn't anything else to play. So even knowing that he'd lose, knowing that it's rigged, he still wanted to play it. The obsession of the game. And very interesting that you say that. So now do you think that my research earlier was that silly? Yes. It's okay.
No, I don't mean silly. Where does it get us? That's what I'm on about. Like, I mean, we all know fucking. What's that game? I was trying to think of the game. Was it Chase the Ace? Was it?
That the Follow the Lady.
Follow the Lady. Is that the game you're thinking of?
No.
Well, when you see them,
give me a second. I'll pull it up because it's just a quick video. And while I'm already doing this, let me go back in my history. And I'll share it.
Like, would I want to be a cheating cards? Is that what you're telling me?
Why wouldn't you want to be a cheating cards? I mean, I think that's kind of the idea.
So you're talking to a person who, instead of going to mass, decided to play cards instead, right?
Okay.
That's what we all done. You know what I mean? Like, so there was cheaters there, and I didn't be a fucking cheat. I didn't. You know, that's what I'm saying.
But if
that's because they were doing it. That's why I've always had that ambition of, if I had £10,000 and nothing to do with it, right? Just go off to Vegas or somewhere and have a game of cards.
Okay.
And none fucking. But am I ever going to fucking play in a game that's not rigged? You know what I mean? Never.
And that's the magic of the game.
It's...
So you go to Vegas and you're playing, and you know you're probably not going to win. But if you understand the science behind it, you already know you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
What's really interesting here is to note that
how do I qualify that with myself, though? You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to fucking know thyself.
Know thyself.
Mm-hmm.
Know that you are okay with either being conned or conning others. So if the game is conning, and even playing it, I'm conning by saying that I'm playing, right? Because I already know I'm going to lose. So I'm not conning myself. Somebody who's oblivious and doesn't know is conning themselves here. They're not being conned by that person. They're conning themselves by not knowing ahead of time that if I'm going to play Follow the Lady, I'm going to be conned.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game. I mean, come on, right? So, yeah, I'll play this little video here. This is very interesting.
My name's Daniel Roy, and today I'm going to show you how the greatest card cheat of all time lost all of his money. If you want to learn magic, check out my online course, Card Magic 101, and if you want to book me for a show, live or virtual, you can contact me on my website. Links are in the description. Now, this story starts with 3 Card Monte, a very old con game with a fascinating history that uses just 3 playing cards. Now, by all accounts, the greatest 3-card Monty hustler of all time was a man by the name of Canada Bill Jones, who lived during the American Civil War. In one calendar year, he won $150,000 playing this game, and that's worth over $5 million today. Now, the way the game works is it uses 2 identical cards, in this case 2 identical aces of clubs, and then a money card, in this case the Queen of Diamonds. Your job is to keep track of the money card. So Canada Bill would toss the money card down, and he'd show you that these cards here were both aces of clubs. And then he'd mix the cards around like this and ask you to bet on which one you thought the money card was. So naturally, you'd bet over here, and of course, you'd be wrong because the money card is over on the end. Now, Canada Bill's favorite way of swindling people was to point out that they shouldn't bet on either of the aces, that they should focus on the queen. And in doing so, he would accidentally bend the corner of the queen, appearing not to notice. He'd remind you, don't bet on this ace over here. Don't bet on this ace over here. This is the card to follow. And just like before, he would mix the cards around like so and ask you to bet. And most people, of course, would bet on the bent corner over here. And once again, they'd be wrong because the money card this time is in the center. So you can see why people lost so much money playing this game, which made Canada Bill quite wealthy. Unfortunately for him, he was also a lifelong gambling addict. Now, his favorite game to play was called Faro, spelled F-A-R-O. And it was very popular in the United States before poker and blackjack took over. Now, Canada Bill is responsible for a common English phrase that you've certainly heard and may have even used yourself. He was in a saloon playing Faro, and he was just losing and losing and losing. And another Monty hustler, a partner of his, recognized him and pulled him aside. He said, Canada Bill, why are you playing Faro here? You know the game is crooked. You know this dealer is cheating you. And Canada Bill replied, I know the game is crooked, but it's the only game in town. He died completely penniless at the age of 40. So after that lovely and uplifting anecdote, let's play some Faro. Now, in Faro, you have to take an entire suit out of the deck. Now, usually you would do this by just spreading through the cards like this, and you'd find those cards and take them out. But where's the fun in that? So to make things more entertaining, I will place a card aside at random. And now I'm going to try to find all the cards of the same suit from the deck. So I will shuffle these cards here together like so, and through a series of coincidences, which clearly I have absolutely nothing to do with, these cards here are all spades. Now you will notice that I've only found 12 spades here. So let's see which one's missing. The ace of spades is followed by the 2, which is followed by the 3, which is followed by the 4, which is followed by the 5, and the 6, and the 7, and oh, no 8 of spades. But the 9 is followed by the 10, which is followed by the jack, and the queen, and the king, which means the only missing spade is the 8 of spades, and the one card I place aside at the very beginning is the 8 of spades. Now in Faro, you have to lay the spades out on the table like so. And these cards actually aren't used in the game. Rather, these cards make up the betting layout. Now, many Faro tables actually have these spades literally built into the table. But if you want to play the game, you can always just take out the spades and lay them out just like this. Now, Faro is similar to blackjack in the sense that there is one dealer who works for the house, in this case, me. And then there are many players, all of whom can place bets simultaneously. So here is how the game goes. The dealer shuffles and cuts the cards while all of the players place their bets. And then the dealer deals out 2 cards. Now, the first card dealt is always called the losing card, and the second card dealt is always called the winning card. Losing card, winning card. Why? Well, if you bet on a card that matches the value of the losing card, you lose. If you bet on a card that matches the value of the winning card, then you win. So, for example, let's say you were playing Faro with $100, and you bet that $100 on king. And then the losing card turned out to be a king. Well, as the dealer, I would take your money. But if instead you had, let's say, bet on the queen, and then the winning card turned out to be a queen, well, then as the dealer, I would gladly pay you off $100, a 1-to-1 payout. So what you'll understand is that if I were a crooked Faro dealer, and I might be, all I have to be able to do is to locate whatever card you bet on, so I can deal it as the losing card. So for example, if you had bet on the jack, I'd just give the cards a few cuts like this to find a jack. If you bet on the 10, well, I'd give them a few more cuts like so to find the 10. If you bet on the 9, I'd have to cut down into the deck exactly 16 cards to find the 9. I also found an 8 there, just in case you were thinking of betting on the 8. And I would never do something this flashy in a game. But if you bet on the 7, I could even find the 7 by causing that card to spin out of the middle of the deck. Now, I'm noticing the cards I found here are all hearts. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. Now, I don't want you to think that I can only find these cards in order. No. I can find whatever card a player bets on. So you'll see there are 6 values remaining, and here I have a 6-sided die. I'm going to roll the die. Whatever value I roll, that's the value I have to find. So I give it a roll. Okay, a 2. That means I have to locate the 2. So I'm going to give the cards a shuffle and a few cuts like this to find the 2. All right, let's try it again. I'll roll one more time. Okay, this time a 5, which means I have to give the cards a few cuts like this to locate the 5. Now, I have to be prepared for any possible outcome. So, while I was finding the 5 and while I was finding the 2, I was also keeping track of the 6 and the 4 and the 3 and the ace, just in case you would bet on any of those cards. Now, you might be wondering at this point, what happens if both cards that I deal are the same? In other words, what if I deal a pair of cards, like, for example, a pair of 7s, maybe? Well, this is where the house edge, the house advantage, comes from. Because if the dealer deals a pair of cards, like, say, a pair of 7s, I take half of all the bets placed on the value 7. Now, you might say, wait, that's not much of an advantage because that's just half the money. Well, think about it this way. This means there's no winning card for the players. I deal 2 7s, I take half the money on the 7s. No player can possibly win money as long as I'm dealing pairs. So, if I want to ensure that the house truly always wins, I have to be able to locate these cards in pairs. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'll try to find pairs from this mess of cards here. Now, I will start by splitting this group roughly in half. So, yeah, it looks about good. And I'm going to use the die to select cards. So I'll give it a roll. Okay, 6 means we will use the 6th card. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 happens to be the 8 of diamonds. Let's pick another one, another roll. Okay, a 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 of diamonds. And if I'd gone any farther, it would have been different cards. Okay, 8 of diamonds, 6 of diamonds. I'm going to shuffle these 2 piles together like so. And let's see how I did. Because if I've done my job correctly, I should have shuffled that 6 of diamonds right next to the 6 of clubs. And I should have shuffled that 8 of diamonds right next to the 8 of clubs. Now, however impressive that might be, there's a bit of a problem, which is those pairs were down in the deck. I would have had to deal down to them. I need to get the pair to the top. So let's take a look at the top card right now. Happens to be a 3. The next card here happens to be a 4. 3 and a 4, not a pair. But if I want it to be a pair, I just switch that card for a 3. Let's try this again, but with some different cards this time. So why don't we use this next card here, which happens to be a 5. Okay, a 5. And this next one here is a queen. 5 and a queen, not a pair. But if I want it to be a pair, I just switch that queen for a 5 by giving it a flick. Let's try this with every card now. Because if I give all of the cards a flick, now right on top here, I have a pair of 10s, followed by a pair of 7s. Next up, of course, is a pair of 2s, followed by a pair of 9s, and a pair of aces, and a pair of kings, and a pair of jacks, and a pair of 4s, and a pair of queens. And that is how the house always wins at Faro. So I think the moral of the story here is that if it's the only game in town, you might want to think twice before playing. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed.
That's the channel there. I'll put the link in because he's kind of fun to watch. Anyway, there's that a little backstory on that. I think that is just great. Yes, thank you. Okay. I'm grabbing that 5910. Okay. Oh, fantastic. Let me save that for, I'm just going to watch the whole thing, you know, because that seems like an interesting one. Okay. I've got it now. Oops. Thank you. I love interesting things. Okay. So back to, we lost Ulick for a moment. Yeah, so the apex hand gestures. What I really love about watching, you know, card tricks and palming tricks and stuff is, you know, what you see going on in the hands anyway. So I've done lots of videos on this. This is not the first time that I have, you know, broke apart. And I did have, what's that one? I don't have the tab up now, but there was one, you know, I found a research that it described the history of how the cards get marked. So the way he's holding that, he's basically just molesting. Every finger is on that deck of cards, much like a guitar. And as he shuffles that, he's feeling for different things so that he knows where different cards are. And he's so good at it, you can't see. Now, I don't actually know how, because there's so many different ways to do that trick. So there's lots of different ways to have your deck marked. And so I'm only assuming by watching him that you know, that's what he's using. So he has some type of, but anyway, when you go in and research the history of card cheating, it's really a fascinating science in itself. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so we're going to go back to our hand gestures and the video we were watching about public speaking. So we kind of talked about there the apex, and I got it right here, and the steeple. And what that, so here's some more things of what it says. If you want to use it for power, so the apex hand gesture here that he's giving us. Okay. No. There we go. To gain authority and assertiveness in shaky situations, this can easily be done to inspire confidence in yourself and others during a meeting or an interview. For example, when a prosecutor is steepling at as his witness testifies, the value of the testimony is enhanced because the attorney is perceived as being confident in the witness's statement. And so this is body language. So that when we're watching people break down, a body language on, say, somebody who's committed a crime, and you're looking for all of these micro expressions and these types of things, the unconscious mind reads those. So it takes a conscious mind that knows them to point them out, because the unconscious body is making these, eyebrow go up here, or lip snarl there, or hands go here, or do this. And the person that's done the crime has no idea that they're doing these things. They're completely unaware of it. It's their autonomic system that's running the show there. And so someone who can read that autonomic system can now, determine certain things. When the leaves are falling, it looks like snow outside. It's so beautiful. It's just falling down, little tricks of a little snowflake, like the flurry. And so the same thing is in business. So when a leader is up there and they're giving this hand in the apex position, they're unconsciously conveying to you, as William stated, a lot of these hand movements come out naturally. So there would be people that are just gifted in the way that they hold their hands and share their information, because it naturally comes out of them. And then there's people who have to practice it. So there is the steepling. So it's an easy one for females in particular, since it is seen as assertive and not aggressive. And you might have also noticed your boss do this move without even realizing its power. However, do not try to steeple in front of others who want dominance. This may lure you into unwanted power struggle. Special note here in the article, it says, I have found that when I use this gesture, it centers and calms me. I've not found any research to back this up, but when I do this, it's almost as if I feel more centered and have an easier time taking deep breaths. It's similar to a prayer gesture. Anyone else experiencing this? Let's look at it too. It's pointing towards the mouth. So it has an unconscious bringing your eye up to, the words that are being spoken, the peak of the pyramid. It sits above, it's like a pyramid within a pyramid, because your elbows create a pyramid, and that goes all in your little chakra. Exactly what that person is saying. It gives them a sense of balance, because they're triangulating their gut and heart chakras and within this larger pyramid. I think that's very interesting to note. Next one.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I find that to be fabulous. Okay, so we'll go to the next one. He's going to go.
Thumbs really noticeable and therefore powerful. So if you do just move very slightly and then very slightly back to your established position, then that can be very, very powerful. So there you go, the apex cradle. Your fingers should be apart. This is one of the three basic cages, and I'm going to go straight on to the second one, which is the front cage. So if you just drop this through 90 degrees, you get the front cage. Again, notice my thumb is together and there's space between all my fingers. It's very definitely a cage. Here, you've got a useful pulse. You can move with your thumbs, and you can go a little bit offline, but really the cages are all centerline cradles, and so don't take them off center. This is more relaxed. The way I'm using it now is I'm not holding my arms out. I'm resting the back of my forearm on my side, so I could stand like this for a very long time. The apex cradle, unless you're sitting in a chair with arms, can be quite quite exhausting to hold for a very long time. Whereas this is much more relaxed, and it exposes your face more. So people are more likely to be looking at your face, and tiny little movements down here might go unnoticed, which is fine because you're not trying to distract people. There's just this reassuring presence of the cage. Don't worry. This is saying you're in safe hands. I know my stuff. I'm scholarly. I've got a corduroy jacket. Yeah, so you can also fingertip bounce, but don't, again, if you keep fingertip bouncing all the time, you start distracting people and you start looking shifty. You don't want to look stressed, because if someone looks stressed, it looks as though they're not sure of what they're saying. So try to look calm. And if you want to look as though you don't take yourself too seriously, which you can do if you're using the apex cradle, you can just bounce the hand open like that and then back to it. It's sort of, yeah, this is my cage, but I'm not wedded to it. You'll not come across as so pretentious that way. So the front cage, it's a much easier cage to use than the apex cage, so maybe you should try that one first. And if you drop it, you go down into what used to be called in English rhetoric textbooks as the low cage or dropped cage. I think in American textbooks, it's called the ground or grounded cage. But anyway, the most common name that people are using today is the Merkel, which is a little bit shorter, so that's a good reason. And just in case you haven't guessed why, it's after Angela Merkel, who is the Chancellor, and has been for a very long time, of Germany. And it's named after her because she uses it really quite a lot. And when I say she uses it really quite a lot, I mean she really uses this a lot. She is known for this particular scholar's cradle, so much so that, look, here we've got an advert for her political party. The German there says Germany's future is in safe hands, a picture of some hands, and that's all they needed to show the German public, to let the public know that they mean Angela Merkel, because she is so known for it. It's become like a trademark for her. So this is now, most gesturists are calling this.
Say that again.
I said it was like Margaret Thatcher with her handbag.
Mm-hmm.
That was sort of, you know what I mean?
Interesting. I'm curious about the placements here. We're talking about chakras. That's why I was looking that up.
Mm-hmm.
Because what position they very much look like they're almost circling,
Good.
a part of the anatomy. And I was wondering, like in chakras, that position, that's the power position there.
Mm-hmm.
The communication. So the apex is right in front of the communication systems. Do you see that? Isn't that very interesting? Anyway, I never even put that together till just now. What that's, also signifying.
The Merkel. But here's the thing, even though Angela Merkel is really known for this, I wouldn't use her as your model. I don't like the way she uses it. For one thing, she's a little bit short, and she knows that she's often going to be photographed standing next to someone much taller than her. So she tends to hold it up here, which I think ruins one of the basic things about the Merkels. It's quite relaxed, you see. This doesn't look relaxed. This is a bit more relaxed, and this is more relaxed again. But if you're holding it up here, it doesn't look so relaxed. As you bring, the higher you bring it up, it more naturally it is to go into a front cage. If you come up to this height and then twist it like this forwards to show that it's a Merkel, I think you don't look relaxed. Now, in this video, in which she's making a speech about the COVID pandemic to the German people, you'll see that she's been framed such that if she were to go into the Merkel at a more natural height, it would be down here somewhere. And this is terrible. This is terrible for television framing. Can you see that my thumbs are just in shot? And so if I move my thumbs at all, it's really annoying and distracting that this is happening right at the edge of frame. So it's natural to bring it up so the whole thing is in frame. But because partly of her physical stature and the size of shot that they've gone for, she's had to hold it up really high here. And then she's bringing it apart and putting it together and bringing it apart and putting it together over and over again. If you just speed it up, oh my goodness, she's doing that over and over again. And she's coming apart but to no particular effect, just to go back together again. So this doesn't really have any great rhetorical effect. It's not relaxing for the viewer either. If you just leave it there, again, this says, it's all right, I know what I'm talking about, everything's fine. If you keep going apart and bringing it together, you lose that you're in safe hands feeling. So yes, so there you go. It's named after her, but don't use her as your model, in my opinion, for how to actually use it. So the Merkel, it's down here. Now, I did mention that the apex cage can also be formed with arched fingers. You can also use that for the front cage. Don't use that for the Merkel. Some people trying to copy Angela Merkel have gone for the dropped cage, the Merkel, with the arched rounded fingers. And oh no, Theresa May, you've just got witch hands there. That doesn't look relaxed or natural or good. So there you go. Be warned. Don't do that. I would say down somewhere around belly button height is quite comfortable for me. And again, rest your forearms on.
Okay, you had a question.
No, I've lost it now. Sorry. I'll tell you now, if they got a hand's gesture for Down syndrome.
That's also known as the Merkel.
That's it, isn't it?
Sorry, it made me laugh. That made me cough. Yeah, the caged. So I can go over here to my hand gestures, and there is one. This one I thought was interesting too, but I'll have to change. Here's the Merkel hands that they talk about, and what is she doing with her hands? It's known as the low steeple, and it's her favorite gesture. It's similar to a normal steeple, except the hands are brought lower around the belly area, more often used by women and when someone is listening rather than talking. What it means, the low steeple signals confidence, but it's not as powerful as the high steeple. So her hands always being that, she's letting the whole world know that she's below them, basically, because if I'm of the club, and I always see Germany's hands in a down position over the abdomen or the belly. Well, what chakra is that? The belly chakra over the power chakra. Then what she's telling me is that she already admits that she's less powerful.
She's subservient.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You're afraid to be dominant. You're in charge. It says they feel in charge, but are too afraid to be dominant. So Germany really has no power at all, is what she's saying.
Yeah.
If you see the low steeple, a person may be set in their opinion about the topic being discussed. And so here's how to use it. Since you'll often see this cue from a listener, the key is to deciphering if he or he is in agreement with you, or to look at other positive or negative cues before and after
Is
the
there,
low steeple.
I have a question.
Okay.
Is there one for my hands are tied? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's always double talk here.
Sure.
You know what I mean? This is him. Is there, what she, I can't, you know, when you see them like that, well, my hands are tied. What's, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Is there one for that?
I'm sure there is. There's 60 of them here. Let's play ball. I think the I'm pretty one I see a lot. So there's lots of them. There's your thumbs up.
What's that thumbs up one? I seen that one recently now. If it comes across. Yeah, it was across.
So we'll look at that one.
It came from the power. With 2 thumbs up. With the flat hands, yeah. I know what I see, yeah.
Okay.
She's given a fisty thumbs up, whereas this one was.
Well, it's going to have similar.
I want to see fingers. You know what I mean? Fingers, thumbs. She's only given a half. Look at her. Oh, hopeful. You know. Oh,
right, but I think.
Come on. But this one was a confident one. Thumbs up, confidence one. That's what I'm saying. It looked unnatural. You know what I mean? It was done deliberately.
Right.
That there is a natural. Yay, thumbs up.
But it can also be used for other situations besides good, including.
Yes.
Acknowledging a favor granted. So now you just kind of think about what this might have been in reference to. Greeting someone, probably not. Requesting permission to carry out an action.
Nope.
Indicating understanding. Were they signaling to a waiter?
No.
And as a sexual insult.
They probably use it like that as well. But no, not like that. No, not with that one up there. No, but this other one was a distinct one across.
As a general rule, your thumbs should be showing if you want to portray competence. Thumbs are a good indicator of agreement, and even powerful leaders use their thumbs when gesturing. And then you have that little peak of the thumb at the top. So this is the same as this. They're all going to fall under the same meaning.
That's just thumbs. I want thumbs and hands. They're, you know what I mean? Together.
Okay.
You know, like, I mean, he's
Right.
giving.
Well, you can have 2 in 1. I mean, you can have 2 hand gestures that are really meaning one thing.
That's what I want to see. If there's, that's okay, but I didn't get what I wanted there, so I don't think it was that.
No, you don't think it's that one. Okay, so that wasn't your anticipated. Well, let me find one that fits your narrative.
Well, listen, I don't study these things. I want to ask anyone, if there's anyone in chat there, what was that thing I said earlier about fucking something I noticed? Charismatic movement or something.
Okay.
And I thought it was to do with religion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I was brought in, like in this. What does charismatic masses now or something?
Yes, where they were very, I would say that we might call that
hands-on.
Pentecostal here.
Hands-on.
Yeah, it's very handsy. Raising hands, holding hands.
Well, that's the
waving hands.
That's the religious, you know what I mean? That's what they sell you, but they're really dropping the hand. When one hand is up, the other hand is down. Is that not what they're at?
Raise Jesus and let me have under the table.
Well, that's what mostly happens, you know what I mean?
That's a sign for money laundering. You give me this under here while we're making everybody think we're throwing this over here. Hand that folder under the table. Let's stop short. This is when we see Oprah using a lot, the sand pinch. It can be even used as the okay gesture. It's to make a point or explain something important. The Peasies taught this to a group of speakers, politicians, and business leaders and measured audience reactions. Those who listened to the speaker using this gesture described them as thoughtful and goal-oriented, and focused. So this is what Oprah is trying to get across to everyone, that she is a thoughtful person, that she has a goal-oriented, which makes sense, her archetype, because she's got lots of, non-for-profit, she's always talking about goals for women. She's the leader of the women's movement there for a while in the 90s, you know, and she got stay-at-home moms everywhere. And then she's very focused. It can also mean perfect. Sprinkle this gesture throughout your speeches to help drill down to your audience, for your audience to remember. Bill Clinton is known for his powerful body language. He does this often in his speeches at important points he wants to emphasize. Very good.
Right.
Or the precise. That's probably Oprah's more like this, isn't she? She's more of an okay. So what Justin Bieber giving me okay signs? You know, precise cue to emphasize a point while speaking. You're actually feeling good. Things are going good for you. You can subtly use this to let others know that you're comfortable and self-assured by resting your thumb and index finger lightly on your leg. I always thought that was too for looking. What's this? If I rested on my leg. This will unconsciously trigger in your conversation partner's mind that you're actually feeling good. You may also catch someone lying with this cue. If a person says their competitor's sales are doing badly, but uses this precision cue, then you can assume that they're actually doing well and catch him in a lie. So would that be the truth with politicians? If they say things are going well and they use this cue, could they be using that with an intent to fool me when it really isn't going well? But I'm going to give you the symbol that it is at the same time that I'm saying that it is, so that I bring that home even more to the mind, that it's okay when it really is falling apart.
Well, when you're talking to the masses, how
Okay.
do you do it? How do you portray? You know what I mean? That's what
Sure.
I'm saying. It's, if you're going down that, you might just be a Mason. You know what I mean?
Well,
We're
that is
talking.
Mason talk, isn't it?
He has
If I'm
a
gonna learn
yeah, I
to
know,
use
yeah,
these things.
but at the same time, when these bollockses are turning around and saying to you, "Oh, this is Masonic," you know what I
Right,
mean? What
right.
you know, fucking anyone can use it.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's nothing
Not
Masonic
Masonic.
about it.
Yeah.
But you can be wearing a tie behind it with the fucking lines going that way, meaning that it's something else. But I'm just saying, when I'm looking at a basic can fucking signals that they're giving, you know what I mean? That there's 60 of them, yeah.
Yeah, but these, yeah.
So like, I mean, there should be 60, and how many letters is there? So I could be doing.
Well,
So
yeah.
like, I mean, it is sign language.
Well, it
that they're
reminds
doing.
me of what baseball umpires do when they're telling the pitcher what pitch to throw.
Well, I remember seeing guys doing tic tac.
Okay.
Father used to bring me to the dogs when I was growing up. I told you,
Yeah,
one
yeah,
side
yeah.
of the track to the other. There was blokes standing on a box with a pair of white gloves on them, and they'd be telling what they're betting here onto each other across without walkie-talkie, before pre-walkie-talkies. Like, I mean, they're not doing anything nefarious. They're just relating. But they were all dealing with white gloves and where their hands was. That's what I'm saying. But when I see it there,
Yeah.
it's not like there's no one tricking somebody. It's just they know it's great to be able to do that, see what they're. Yeah, it's two-faced line fucker. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what most of it I see. Most when I see politicians doing it, I say, well, are they trying to? That's propaganda. They're using all that their trickery. Everything you're seeing there is all part of.
Well, I think one of the things that I have thought of since we've looked into this is that now when I have visuals or I watch someone speak,
Exactly.
no, like say we'll take Zuckerberg. He does full body speeches, right? So does Noah, Yuri
Does he?
Noah.
Can I
Yes.
ask you? I've seen Zuckerberg, or is this that? I've seen him that time when he was sitting there. And not that I look at, because there's no interest in this. He just sits there expressionless. He's white with red lips and little nostrils, so he might be pixelated to watch him or something like that. I don't know what way people could take anything from that guy. You know what I mean? So go ahead.
There's
framed.
he's socially awkward. And so he's somebody who has to practice these movements.
He's an actor, remember? They're all actors.
Right.
So you say he's what? He's playing a part as being deliberately.
No, what I'm saying.
They don't
is
go out and look for socially awkward people to be putting them in the head of the socially. You know what I mean? It's a bit fucking ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, I don't necessarily know that I agree with that. Just because with the way that this is applying the meaning of life theory. So the meaning of life theory says that we're school kids. And this awkwardness that we're seeing, this is revenge of the nerds. These guys have now come back to the reunion and they have a helicopter. Okay.
Right.
And so they've had to learn how to be, a lot is going into these savants, and it's under your thing there. These scientists, because one of the things that makes Neil deGrasse Tyson, or whatever his name is, attractive to people is because he's not really that guy. So he might be really smart, but he has a way of making you feel comfortable socially. He's not socially awkward. He's relatable. He's friendly. He's warm in his movements and his spot, where Zuckerberg is not. He's very robotic and off. And that's why he gets accused of being either an alien or a hybrid or an android or something. That's him. I've met real people like that in my life. You hang around nerds, that's a real thing. And so he has to practice. So what that tells me is that when Zuckerberg is giving me a speech, then knowing these hand gestures now and knowing these aren't things that come naturally to him, he's had to learn them. That means that he's applying them to the exact scene and the exact line and the exact wording. So it's a 1, 2, 3 triangle here, say this, hands over here, say that. It's going to be extremely scripted for him. So now that makes what he says a lot more decodable, because it's not something that's natural to him. Do you see what I'm saying? So he is inserting the hand gestures at the exact moment that they're meant to be. He's telling everyone what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would say in a sense of,
It's just a strange one, I think, with him, especially socially awkward person being the head of a social media company.
That is a funny, ironic
Well, is it?
thing, isn't it?
Is it?
Well, it's actually, nonfiction is, stranger than fiction. The truth is stranger than fiction. And so, could you write a story about the most socially awkward person on the world who runs a social media platform? I think that's if you take him and compare him to, say, Musk is also someone who has a very warm, natural way to interact with people. So despite the fact that he's somewhat socially weird, he can maintain it for a certain amount of time. I think that's why we hear stories of their personal lives that isn't what we see when we're around them. So Martha Stewart can do it and hold it together while she's on stage. But for some reason, the minute the camera's off, that's about all she has. And the actress turns into an absolute horrible person. Do you know what I'm saying? That they're too day and night. They can only maintain in introvert, extrovert type thinking. So an introvert, that's me. I can be extrovert. I'm very friendly and a lot of people like me, but I can't maintain that for very long periods of time. One, it's exhausting. And two, it makes me start really hating people. And then I end up retreating and I stay gone much longer than I would have before, because I just don't want to put myself back in there again. So you can only do it for a small amount of time. Kind of the opposite of someone who's an extrovert, who is always out, but can't spend a lot of time with themselves. Although they can do it, they got to go back out. They got to go to the club. I've been at work all week. I can't do it anymore. Those two different archetypes. I can see both. Bryce says they must practice for ages. It's like Ulix says, it's a way of communication. Do they apply their own meaning. Oh, that's a very good question to ask. So would that go along with Freemasonry? That even though, yeah, business says that this means this, but within my own sect, kind of like baseball teams. So baseball teams all have, think of it, I don't know if there's a sport that you guys, I only know Baseball Reference, but in baseball, everyone uses the same ear pull, scratch, snap, this, that, and the other. But for each team, those have different meanings or orders. So that way I can't watch that team, you know?
Yeah, a free kick, for example.
Okay.
Yeah, a free kick in soccer.
Okay.
They might have a hand signal for players to run here, there, and everywhere before they
Okay.
kick the ball and whatever. Yeah, simple enough like that.
Okay. But each team will have a different, it's not, the
Mhm.
snap is not always going to mean a
Exactly,
fastball.
yeah.
Okay. So I think that would be where I put that question, Bri. Each club would have its own.
They practice this.
Yeah, so each fraternity would have maybe its own special language on top of that one. So it does mean I'm in charge. But if the guy next to me is doing a different hand gesture, it has a secondary meaning, which would make sense in some of the things we see with Congress and stuff, where you have behind them 2 more pillars with their own hand gestures.
Yeah.
Layering these on top of each other. That's interesting to pick apart. Now that sounds fun. You know, because we saw that. Remember when we broke off, oddly enough, Pharaoh from A Tears for Fears, and we were picking apart that video, the B-side of the Pharaohs, which was just ship navigation.
Yeah.
And trying to see, you know, what we thought that was meaning there. Why did they include that as a song on their singles B-side? Like, why was that there? It seems out of place and odd, but somehow it's there. And when we were doing that, we were looking at the United States had some kind of thing. They had the black masks on, and the 2 guys behind one of them, and they each were doing their own weird, very blunt triangles, very blunt in the background. And it was, we were playing it as if it was, you know, a dance in a way. And so that was kind of, what does that mean? Anyway, that's fun. Okay, maybe we're boring people. There's only 4 people still interested. Should we keep playing the video? I don't mind. I'm going to watch it anyway.
I want to, yeah. Well, I know you were watching it. That's what it says. I don't mind.
I was watching it because I find it, I don't know, I find this stuff, somebody that studies human beings, and if you're going to say that you're a truther, or you're going to claim that, you know, you under the Illuminati, if you're even going to talk about the Illuminati to me and convince me that you have something there that's worth listening to, if you don't understand the basics of magic and hand gestures, how can you even claim to be an expert?
Well, there's 60 something you say that
60 hand gestures,
60 different ones. So that's
even here, like in Brazil, it can be a vulgar gesture.
Well,
an orifice makes an orifice. Oh, you know. Yeah.
Wanker.
A wanker. A wanker. So when we see certain political leaders who have their hands clasped behind their back, this is what this would mean. These are classic patrol hands stance. You might see from a security guard who is making routine patrols. Basically says, I mean business. The pose is also common in people who are pondering or relaxed, an observant manner, such as walking through the garden. I think that would be an interesting one to observe in our political leaders, because we're not to assume, we're assuming that they're representing their country when they make these movements. So if they're representing their country, and when something is mentioned, that particular person from that country is standing as if they're walking through the garden, doesn't that symbolize something to me? And symbolizes that they're not involved in this part. They're just cruising along with whatever is going on. That's what I would take from it.
Yeah, but
yeah, come on. You're giving me the Elvis lip. What? It exudes authority. Coupled by the chest poofed out, it displays confidence. So if I stand there, so that's why the police would use it. Non-confrontational gesture. Since the vulnerable part of the body is exposed without the hands to protect it. They found that officers who don't wear firearms use this pose regularly while rocking back and forth on the balls of their feet. This lets them gain additional height and seem more authoritative.
Mhm.
That kind of makes me think of guys that stand outside bars. What are the bouncers? They're often in a somewhat relaxed position. They're like this on a bar stool, puffed up chest. You see them in the movies. They're not. That's a reactive. Because I'm in that position, I can quickly move, but I look relaxed. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Or they're standing there in front,
Ready.
their
None of the
hands
balls
in
of their
front,
feet are ready to move.
or
Then.
behind. Right. Funny. But police who wear firearms, however, seldom do this gesture. Instead, they hang their arms to the side or tuck their thumbs in their belt. But can you guess why? Because having a firearm gives the officer sufficient power, so the patrol hand gesture isn't needed. That's interesting. So even our people that are doing protests right now, this might be something that would be very helpful to them as they're standing up and giving their lectures or their speeches, and they're communicating not because they're doing this to the crowd, but because there's police officers there. There's people watching that are paying attention. If they see you using these positions, you're speaking to the controllers now. You're talking their language now. You think you want to be talking to the people, but do you? I don't know. That's an interesting thing, to think about. Come here, come to me. There's your little, come here. Well, here
we go.
Right
the
here.
wrestlers, where Donald Trump learned his, actually.
Okay.
Oh, when you see he went through The Apprentice and he was on that and all this, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You say to me he's natural. He's been trained, you know what I mean? He is all the
Doesn't
time.
mean that he had a gift. People that are excellent pianists were born with the gift to be a pianist. Not everyone can learn that and fluidly use it.
Well, I think
There's
when you're
lots of
being
people,
trained,
yeah.
when you're being trained for the world stage, it's not fucking.
Yeah.
That man's the most obvious person that there is. Like, I mean, what other person has been on TV to show you how it's done to get to the top?
Right.
Right. Him. And if,
Oh,
you know what I mean.
He's definitely
Well,
the poster child
for what?
for business. He's the poster child for business.
But he's used all of that media there in front of you. You know what I mean?
Right.
To get there. That's all he
the
is.
13. He's the bee. He's the symbol of
He's the beast.
13.
He's the beast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's to say, like
Adolescence.
it's my way or the highway.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other show in town. That's the way they're gonna make it look like. I'm the only show in town. That's what I'm hearing at the moment.
That's fair.
Well, you've genetocracy is a word I didn't hear, but they all are ancient, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're all underlings underneath there, waiting, vying for that number one position there to do fucking anything to get there, right?
Yeah.
That's the way it looks. Which still you have Klaus Schwab. I think as he turned over to his son, maybe he's turned over to his son is taken over from him at the moment. If I'm not sure, but still we're talking about Klaus Schwab. Donald Trump must be fucking 110 at this fucking stage. You hear that these fucking Israelis, they're talking about them since the 70s and fucking 60s. Henry Kissinger, they're fucking ancient, these people. Mm-hmm. But yet, you're talking about the different generation. These are the ones now who have.
Right.
They're still in fucking power, yeah?
Well, they are prophets, too.
Well, they're the ones who don't, the ones to look up to, yeah. These underlings that are fucking there now.
It's very fitting that they use prophets for the name of money, making money. Prophets.
but we don't see the likes of.
They create it's all in the name. I am a prophet. I'm predicting the future.
Well,
And because I'm predicting the future, I'm going to reap the rewards of the future. And that's their hero children.
Right.
Right.
And we don't get cooperation. We haven't got there then.
And
again,
I
above that again.
understand as a prophet who loves art that in order to have art, I must also have the rebel. So I need that archetype of the
Alternative.
hero opposite.
But you're only getting an alternative. It's like the two sides. They tell you there's two sides of the coin. No, there's three fucking sides, isn't there?
Yeah.
Fuck you, man. But we keep falling into that trap. Oh, democracy is there. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
what they get. That's what. You know what I mean? Two sides fucking of the same arse fucking. Do you think that you're going to change anything? No. You still have them above you that are.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll keep on. That's the only thing they'll give you. The best thing that they're going to give you is that. So what have you to do? What I'm going to do?
What are you going to do?
Go and walk over here.
Oh,
I'm not fucking ever going to tell you again. Because I'm fed up fucking doing it, you know what I mean? They're all fucking idiots. And the rest of it's marmalade.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But marmalade tastes good. Right? It all points to one thing, secrecy. Always claim transparency, though. As if it's right out there in the air. But isn't that kind of, I mean, we all know that the best place to hide something is right out in the open. I practice this every day because I have snack fiends and sweet fiends in my house. And I can hide chocolate and candy in my room right there where anybody and everybody could touch it, get to it. But nobody sees it because it's just hidden amongst all of the rest of the stuff. As if it's where is Waldo, like find Waldo.
Is that what we have to do? I thought it was just a matter of asking.
You do only have to ask. But if I let people know in my house where my secret hiding places are, they will go back without me. So I have to rehide it. So you do have to ask, but I still can't let you see. I'm not saying you do that, but there's other people who do that. So can't let them know where it is. You have to move it the next time. So that kind of goes along with what we have. If we're talking about Illuminati, the fact that we know there's things now, the fact that we are being, given an inside view, and we're all talking about Freemasonry, and they're not hiding it, and they're open about it. It tells me that they've moved it. They've changed it. It's not where it's not what you thought. So what you're saying it is, it no longer is. It's moved past that position. So if whenever we're looking at the Illuminati, Freemasonry, I'm now looking into deeper meanings, of the, what we're talking about here, of these symbols, of these.
Move on with the crackery.
apron.
You know what I mean? Move on with the
Right.
crackery. We can all go and watch for magic. There's no magicians anymore. We know he is a fucking chasing the ace. You know what I mean? So, it's all computerized now.
Mm-hmm.
If you go into it, do you think now going into Las Vegas or anything like that, everything isn't fucking, every little move you make? I mean, they're going to give you the card they want to. They give you, you're walking by that machine, give him so much of a win there, a boost. He needs it.
Right.
It can be all, you know what I mean? If
Well,
I can think of it,
right.
if I can think of it, how to take your money off you, right? That's my job. Simple enough, fuck's sake. It's not too hard. If I was a computer fucking head, program that fucking thing to follow him around and take all his money off him. But don't, he's the weekend here. Let him enjoy his time here.
Well, the thing.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. And they show you that on the thing, but
You've played
Don't listen
some
to me.
online video games like Candy Crush or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay. So when you play those games enough, you do learn that there's a pattern too.
Super.
All of a sudden, the pieces start to fall down in groups, and you're for a few games, you're going to have a group, so you're going to be able to bust these boards like easy peasy.
Yeah.
And so you know that you're going to, and then there's times that you can't win a board to save your life, but you just keep playing through it because you know eventually you will get back up to that one point. But that's the same
why do
thing.
I play it in the first place?
That's this because it's just fun.
No, because you're bored.
Well, that's fair. But we're talking about
exactly
casino
what it
games.
is.
So casino games, so slot machines are going to have the same type of thing. That's why they show where somebody sits every day at a casino from open to close, monitoring and watching a machine. This is what they don't like you to do. So you have to be playing, even if you're monitoring a machine next to you. You need to be somewhat putting something in another machine to be monitoring that one, to watch for the signs. You have to watch this for a very long time. These aren't a week or a few weeks like our video games.
Mm-hmm.
These are designed much longer. And so you see that in the movies where people are doing, they're watching a thing, they walk right up to it, put their quarter in, it hits instantly, they walk out of there, and that machine is going to be shit for months now.
Well,
they know that.
Your daughter recently that happened to.
With the claw machine?
Yeah. And they only put whatever it is first go.
Okay. One quarter in.
Yeah. Okay, I'll take another one and that's it. Right? You don't win every time. But in her mind,
right,
it's been planted there. Every time I walk by a machine now, you're going to have to put one of them in. No matter what. And that's the way.
It's like someone who buys a lottery ticket, one lottery ticket every week.
Well, it's a hook, isn't it? That's what I call you. I'm hooked. But boredom is the thing mainly.
The thing about what happened with Boo is that the reason that she got that animal was because the claw hooked on the tag.
Mm-hmm.
It did not bring out the doll. It did not grab the doll's head and pull it out like you traditionally see. It hooked on the tag and pulled it out by the tag. So had those people taken off the tag, she would have never won. So that was the lesson she learned there. There was an influence inside there that upped her odds. That had that influence not been there. So again, if I'm looking to grab something out of a claw machine, many times when we were young, remember, we went and looked for the one item that had something you could hook on it. An arm was exposed, a tag, a hook, something like that. A wide neck base, a narrow neck base that the claw could get. If the head's too big, the claw doesn't go down far enough.
Mine was holding the gold bar. Never going to come out.
Yeah.
Kicking machine.
Sure. Sure.
Hello to the
But
camera.
we always scan inside that claw machine for the one item that seems to have an environmental factor giving us higher odds. We don't just wing it.
Oh, yeah.
And she learned, she winged it. She just put it in and got lucky that the thing she got. So I think that's interesting to think about. The secrecy is transparent, so it comes down to self-perception or consent. I think that's very good comment to make. Consent. How to control people.
The Rock and Oprah Winfrey. Funny we've been talking about them two, and they've been recently fucking.
True, right?
The two of them have been ripped.
Give me your money.
Give me your money. I have loads of it. Where's his other hand? Where's his other hand? What's his other hand doing?
He does kind of look like a Hawaiian there, like he should be doing one of those tribal dances with fire or something, doesn't he?
Maori.
A Maori, yeah. One of those tribal Hawaiian dances that they do on stage for the American tourists. Or
give me all your money, all your hugs and kisses.
I don't. Do other people from other countries like to go to Hawaii? Is this a place that you guys would go? Or is Hawaii like your Paris? You guys, everybody in Paris. We all go to Paris or whatever.
I'm sure everyone would love to go to Hawaii. Yeah, it's full of hula hoops and with the hula dancers. And
oh, well, you also had Fantasy Island, didn't you? Wasn't that something that was played over
Hawaii
there?
5-0.
Yeah, Hawaii 5-0, that's it.
Yeah, that would have been the first. Yeah, the uncle actually was over and visited. I think He done all the states, including, he didn't do Alaska, I don't think. Hawaii he done. But he says Hawaii, he says, was the poorest. And it had the most crime, which, for whatever way, he says, which surprised him.
And when do you remember what? Because I did.
That would
I
have been
actually
the
done
80s.
study on
That
this.
would have been the 80s.
Yes. So let's put this with something that we see going on in cities. So just recently, I listened to something, and it said that business can just, or politics. I think they were referring to politics. They can just decide that a community. This was once a poor community.
Mm-hmm.
Business came in, they cleaned it up. Now it's a rich community.
Mm-hmm.
All because someone just decided to do this. Well, the same thing actually happened in Hawaii, and you bring up a good point. So pre-80s, Hawaii did not have quite the attractive factor that is gained today. And let's just say a politician or a businessman came in, saw the potential, and says, I'm going to make Hawaii, this crime-ridden area, the most popular travel destination, and give it a different alluring factor. And how they did that was they called their friend who works in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, I need you to make me some shows. I want Magna PI. I want Hawaii Five-0. I want an episode in, the Brady Bunch. I want every place from even Full House, right? They all went to Hawaii. Everyone, Fantasy Island, everyone went to Hawaii. They sold us Hawaii as this fantasy land. And I told you that when I was in college and we were in our senior year of college and we were trying to decide where we were going to end up moving with the degree that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Hawaii was on the list because who doesn't want to live in Hawaii? And we have, the world is our oyster. And when we started looking at Hawaii, what teachers make in Hawaii puts you in a totally different class than where teachers make in, say, Tennessee. Right? So Hawaii instantly exactly what that conflicting idea in our minds. So we were sold that it was this magical place and that, you want to live there. And then when you actually go to look there, outside of being a tourist, you don't want to live there. You want to visit there. It's a great place to visit. Can you think of other places that have that around the world that have that allure? They're a great place to visit, but you don't want to live there. You wouldn't want to live in that country or that location, but it's gorgeous to go visit. Say Africa would probably be one of those places that the elites like to parade around as being such a magical place, and yet to live there would be, and let's say Mexico, Cancun. These are spring break destinations sold to me by MTV, but yet to go there, I run the risk of being raped and killed in the outside of a bar or something. Right?
Well, you need armed
or
guards.
shown on, Girls Gone Wild at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
The truth and what they
well,
sell
when
me.
when I was in Cancun, I seen a different world.
Okay, so tell us.
Well, I just seen what wealth was and what outside of wealth is. Like, I was in 5-star hotels down there, right?
Sure.
And when I went out to visit, you can go downtown.
Right.
But I didn't realize, I didn't bother me whole going downtown, to be honest with you, because it was on my own. I have all here to pay for it. Why should I go downtown? You know what I mean? To see the natives when they're all gated. So when I did go off in my coach, it's not that I stayed in, but when I did, I seen you fucking sitting there with machine guns down at these posts. And I thought, it's just an army barracks. No, these are just people where they live.
Mm-hmm.
To keep fucking. I said, do I want the world to live in a world like that? Do I need to live in a world like that? Haves and have-nots.
Would you say?
You know what I mean?
Question.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting what you brought up, because this is what you made me think of in my mind. So let's take that 5-star hotel as if it's the castle.
Mm-hmm.
And then the outskirts of that being all the people that run the castle. So the people that run the shops, the chefs, the restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And then outside of that ring, is that where you had the actual people, the industry, the poor?
Mm-hmm.
So even within that middle ring there, not the middle, but the ring that's between the poor, the divisional.
You'd see the manager's houses probably in them. You know what I mean? Like, so they're living in a gated community as well. You know what I mean? And then you'd see them coming in the mornings and they'd have to check in.
Right.
The menials, the slaves, in other
Right.
words, yeah.
The slaves, right.
Well, you know what I mean?
Well,
Well,
yeah.
the people who I am.
The happy slaves, we'll call them, because they don't know they're in slavery.
They
I
do.
work at McDonald's. I'm not in
They
slavery.
do actually know they're in slavery because I'll tell you why.
Okay.
They're dependent on that industry. Their whole fucking thing is dependent on the tourist industry. And it proved no better because I was probably the only one at the time there that was able to fucking speak in English. There's very few English speaking people. I told you.
Interesting.
They were European, especially.
Right.
So I was asking them, I was able to ask them questions like fucking, they'd never seen it like that before, and they kept going. They didn't know what was going to happen.
Right.
You know, like if.
Do you think that ring kind of isolates them or insulates them in a way? Not isolate, insulates them in a way. They're not over there, so they're not poor. I got a job, but I work for, would this be the difference between the people in the plantation that work inside the house and the ones that work outside the house?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly, yeah.
So it is, we are having it today. It is visible to see
the
same
tips, even, you know what I mean? Like people, they were dependent on people for tips. And like, I mean, it all washes down that time. It did. I couldn't see it any clearer.
That's very interesting.
But when I went outside, that was the bigger shock for me when I seen all these gated fucking places.
Is this when you were taking your bus
trip?
Yeah.
So, fuck, that's weird.
So how long was the trip to the Mayan temples? How many hours? You said it was a couple hours?
A couple of hours, probably, yeah.
And you did notice the difference as you were going. Yeah. Was it clear, like clearly defined lines?
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like America doesn't really have clearly defined lines in a lot of places, which is what makes people not really see it. It's very blurry, the haves and have-nots. It's not a clear, defined, outlined line. It's blurry. In some cases it is. I can go across the railroad tracks. We have sayings like this. But most people in suburbia, it blurs out older neighborhoods that were once beautiful, but yet still established.
Well, when you see it now, you see migration within. You're moving from states to state because of taxes and different things now. And I think it's been done deliberately myself.
Of course it is.
Well, you say of course it is. All I can say is I can see it now. You wouldn't normally be given that fucking bias, like it's. But to see that, that's fucking mad. And then throw a load of fucking millions of other fucking people into the mix. That's. These are on a bigger scale. That's what I say. These are 50 shades of shite.
Yeah, true that.
Well, that's mad. What you have to. From Europe is
50.
Another 50 shades of shite. You know what I mean? I can't say it. It's the same.
Yeah.
And who's the puppet fucking master?
The Pope.
The King.
The King.
You know what I mean? They all orchestrated. Your turn. You know what I mean? Come on,
who's flashing the apex this week?
Come on, I had to go down and fuck on my knees in Ireland there in the 60s, remember? Yeah. Young children of Ireland, I love you. Bastard. You did love us, all right, yeah? And, you did. Did he bugger them for fucking long enough? No freaks. That's them, you know what I mean? I'm saying.
Sure.
And anyone that's part of them, I'd say, is our groomers or enablers. But that's me, I'm in the minority. People can't see that. They say, oh, no, you're wrong. But he's the leader. Where does he come in all this? You know what I mean? We're very good on Klaus Schwab. We're well versed in exactly what he says. Is there two popes? Did one of them? You know what I mean?
Right.
But I don't know myself. But they seem to have a bit of power, don't they? when they won.
And when it's their turn?
Well,
Interesting.
it's not. I bored you, sorry.
No, well, you said I bored you with my magic talk earlier.
Well, with the hands, I can't. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit there and watch. It's like what I said to you. I don't want to see someone how they can switch cards. I'll never play cards again. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. It's not just that I don't want to do it. I can. What am I going to learn? I'm going to have to learn how to fucking do that, so I know it's not being done to me.
Well, that is.
Or I'm not going to play.
Well, and that's really when I was breaking down the history of card cheating.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what ends up happening, because the only people playing cards are cheaters. That's what the guy said. It's the only game in town, though. You already know this game is rigged. No matter if this dealer's doing it, you're dealing it, that guy's doing it. It doesn't matter who's doing it. It's rigged. And yet here you are.
Mm-hmm.
What's really interesting is in Las Vegas, there's only one bet in all of gambling on that has you and the house have equal odds. There's only one. And now all the rest of them, the house always has odds. There's never any that you have the odds are in your favor. But there's one where you are equal to the house. And that bet is called a pass bet. Do you not find that an interesting name to call it? It's when you aren't playing. It's a pass bet, right? And it happens in craps. And you can just leave your little coin on the pass bet line, which means that you don't lose or win, but you're still in the game. You're passing this round, right? And if you happen to get the right numbers, then you double your money. And if you don't, then your money stays the same. You're not losing. That's the only bet. And I think that's a really powerful word there to use as an example of how to play the game of life. Sometimes you just need to pass on it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't play it. You've still got a coin in the game. We're still here. I still have to eat. I have to sleep. I need a house. But I don't have to play per se. I don't have to throw all my chips in and place bets all over the table. But then, I find behaviors interesting. Gambling's a human behavior.
Well,
so I view it differently.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Stocks, shares.
Same exact idea. That's
well, that's what an awful lot of people are living on. Well, I can't
Yeah.
see. Well, that's what people have pinned their hopes on. That all that's going to go well for them.
Well, then the pass line would kind of be like going into a business and having a 401k, something that the business is actually taking care of for you. So you're not taking the risk to throw bets out yourself and play the stock market, but you are allowing your business to play it for you. And so you're kind of passing on that part of the game in a sense. And at the end, you might end up with a lot of money, or you might end up with the same money you started with. But either way, it's not, you're still maintaining. So I would consider that way if I was looking at it from a stock market perspective. Because those that are throwing their money all over the table are definitely playing the stock market. They know.
Well, is that not what we are doing at the moment on the world stage?
Yes, and the thing that was interesting about watching that card trick and what you could see him do is imagine if that is your, you're there and your bets are there, but the guy that's running the dealer,
Mm-hmm.
he is running game. I'll show you something else. So stick with me for a second. So I'll show you what I mean. Let me go back over here to this video here. Not this one, but a different one. So I'm going to go back to my history and show you. That was the one we just played. It's going to be down here. Is it this one? Might be. Okay, so share this with you.
To demonstrate 10 levels of sleight of hand with cards. start off by using whatever card happens to be on top of the deck. In this case, the Ace of Clubs. Now, level 1 is being able to control just one card. So, for example, I can give these cards a cut, yet still control the Ace of Clubs. Now, level 2 is what's called a slug control. Basically just means to control a small group of cards. So, for example, if I give the cards a shuffle like this and some cuts, not only have I controlled the Ace of Clubs, but I have also controlled the 2 of Clubs, the 3 of Clubs, the 4 of Clubs, and the 5 of Clubs. Now, level 3 is what's called controlling the entire deck of cards. So I'm going to give these cards some shuffles and cuts, and even though it looks like I'm mixing the cards, I'm actually keeping every single card in the deck in exactly the same position. So you can see that the Ace of Clubs is followed by the 2, which is followed by the 3, which is followed by the 4 and the 5 and the 6 and the 7 and the 8, the 9, the 10, the Jack, the Queen, and the King. But it's not just the clubs, because all of the hearts are in perfect numerical order, the Ace through the King, all the diamonds are in perfect numerical order, the Ace through the King, and all of the spades are in perfect numerical order, the Ace, all.
So that is the stock market. That's what, so the business people are actually putting the cards in play. Now, I'm going to keep playing because I want you to see what he can do. Now, wouldn't you love to have him as a partner? Wait till the
way through the King. Now, level 4 is what's called a Pharaoh shuffle. Not like the Egyptian pharaohs. It's spelled F-A-R-O, and it's actually named after an old gambling game from the 1800s. And although it's a real shuffle, it's a control shuffle. And if I spread the cards out, you'll see what I mean. It is a perfect alternation of the cards. So the deck runs one card from this side, then one from this side, 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 all the way through the deck. And the Pharaoh shuffle can be done in the hands, the way I did it just a moment ago, but it can also be done flat on the table in a way that mimics a riffle shuffle. And once again, you can see that the cards are perfectly alternating all the way through the deck. Now, as I said, although it's a real shuffle, it's a controlled shuffle. So even though the 4 aces were spread out a few moments ago, now they are all together right on top of the deck. Now with level 5, we move away from all of the crooked shuffles that we've been examining so far, and we move towards crooked deals. So level 5 is the second deal. I'll put the Ace of Spades on top of the deck, and I'll deal out a round of cards in, let's say, a 5-handed game of poker. Yeah, so 4 players and 1 for me. But you'll notice that I've received the Ace of Spades. Now, it's easy to see what's happening if I leave the ace face up. When I deal to the other players, I'm pulling cards from directly underneath the ace. In other words, I'm dealing the second card from the top. Now, level 6 is what's called a bottom deal, where that ace of diamonds goes onto the bottom of the deck. Yet I can deal 1 card to each of the other players and then 1 card to myself off the bottom. You can see the ace is no longer on the bottom of the deck because it's now in my poker hand. Level 7 is what's known as a Greek deal. See, in high-stakes games of cards, they use what's called a cut card. It's basically just a face-up joker that goes onto the bottom of the deck, and it pins in that ace of hearts. Because right now, if I tried to do a bottom deal, I would deal the face-up joker, which would make it really obvious that I was cheating. Yet it's even possible to deal that ace of hearts out from above the cut card. You can see that the joker is still there, but the ace is gone because it's now in my poker hand. At level 8, we have what's commonly called the grandfather of all crooked dealing moves, the legendary center deal, where that ace of clubs literally goes into the middle of the pile. Yet I can deal 1 card to each of the other players and then 1 card to myself directly from the center, the ace of clubs. Now with level 9, we move back to crooked shuffling techniques, this time to what's called stacking the deck. Now, in order to demonstrate this, I'm going to leave the 4 aces face up on top of the deck. That'll make this a lot easier to follow. I'm going to give these cards a shuffle, and after I give the cards a shuffle, I'll spread them out so you can see what's happening. So the cards down here are being mixed, but you'll notice that I put exactly 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in between the ace of spades and the ace of diamonds. And I'm going to do something very similar on the next few shuffles. So on this next shuffle, if I spread the cards out, once again, you'll see the cards near the bottom are being mixed, but I've added another 4 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, in between the ace of diamonds and the ace of hearts. Now, on this third shuffle, I have to be very careful. And you'll see what I mean when I spread out the cards. I've added 1, 2, 3, 4 cards in between the ace of hearts and the ace of clubs, but you'll notice that I have had to be sure to not accidentally shuffle any cards into this region here, because otherwise I'd mess up my stack. This means that all that's left is to just add 4 cards on top of the ace of clubs. And now it's time to deal. Now, because the aces are face up, you'll know that they must be coming off the top of the deck. So on this first round, you'll see that I receive an ace. This hand here is called pocket aces. They say that 3 of a kind is really all you'd ever need to get the money, but just to be sure, I stacked myself all 4 aces. But there's a little problem, which is even if I give myself 4 aces, I'm not going to win any money because none of the other players are going to bet. You'd have to give them really strong hands if you wanted them to bet money. But see, that's the beauty of riffle stacking, because you can control a lot more than just 4 cards. See, that's why I gave this player here the 10 of clubs, and the 10 of hearts, and the 10 of diamonds, and the 10 of spades. I gave this player here the jack of clubs, the jack of hearts, the jack of diamonds, and the jack of spades. This player here got the queen of clubs, the queen of hearts, the queen of diamonds, and the queen of spades. And this player over here got all 4 kings.
So there, that is just beautiful. That's how he wins his money. So the dealer makes sure that that person is going to bet, but he made sure he still has a higher hand. But this is so, you couldn't, I mean, obviously you wouldn't do it this bluntly in a real game. You'd get caught. But to give somebody 2 kings while you have the 2 aces, they go all in on their bet. So the dealer is not just controlling their own, they're controlling everyone else. And I was reading that one of the things that will happen in cheating is that they'll allow themselves to lose. And so, like, you know, poker sharks, not, what are they? Pool sharks.
Yeah.
And they'll even make, so they can switch. So if one person is winning a lot, the dealer can switch it over to someone else and let that person. So if they see that someone who's playing the game is starting to get frustrated because they're not winning, suddenly they'll start to win once someone else starts to lose. And that's business. Do you see what I'm just going to move my game of winning over to this group. And now everyone that's invested in tech is going to have
anyone tells you there is luck.
No, there's no such thing
There's
as
no
luck.
such thing as luck. Well, that's what I was hoping
There is, but not in this game. This is a
Mm-hmm.
rigged game. Like football is rigged and baseball is rigged. So there's variables. I mean, obviously there's variables. The more complicated you become. If we threw dice in there, you know, we have to control a lot more things. And I can't control how the player is going to play. And that is one thing that he can't show you here, because, you know, just because I have 2 kings, I might have an intuition, or
But he knows who to deal
or
it
I
to.
just make stupid mistake.
If you're a card player and I'm 2 kings shown, I'm gonna, and I'm down a bit, they'll know.
Yes.
They'll take it out of you. Because if he's not doing that, if he knows that's second nature to him, he's reading the player.
So imagine if the politicians are the players in this game, but business is the dealer.
Yeah.
Or insurance. Because really that is the dealer, because we win and lose, but insurance always wins.
Always
wins. I watched a thing on casinos before where the dealer's box had a reflective part on the box they slid the cards from, and sleight of hand, they could view the upcoming card and slip you the next one. Who win? Yes. Interesting. Trading Places. That's a great movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's some, you know, science to cards. Now, you know, me, I have to put it in behaviors and ages and stages. And then that's what I did. So I looked up the evolutionary process of sleight of hand.
In gambling, can I just say, gambling is a form of, we don't earn enough, right? How can I make money as a secondary thing? You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to pay. So gambling is one of them things where people, they don't feel it's not an industry that I can gamble and win money. I don't have to go and rob it to get money.
Right.
To get me a chance, they think.
But true gambler knows it's not a game of chance. It's a game of counting, math.
So, well,
that's why that's banned from casinos, because casinos also know that. And that's why the dealers don't play with you. Notice in a casino, the dealer is void of the game. But that doesn't mean, of course, in a casino, it's different. But in the old times, before we had where we still had it. A casino absolutely would have hired dealers who had the capacity to help someone lose if they were on a winning streak. There's no doubt in your mind, in my mind anyway, that a dealer, if gotten a little thing in their ear,
Well,
said,
what
don't
are
let that guy win anymore. And now
what's
it's
the
not
next-
luck anymore. I
What's the next
changed
thing
the
then
game.
after gambling? Well, not a gambling, shares.
That is Freemasonry, right?
Well, shares.
Business.
That's another way people get money.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
In a
they're-
rigged system, because I'm buying
Well-
stocks based off of what? Because someone else is buying the stocks? Everyone's buying it. You should buy it.
So we're so dependent on them. That's what I'm
Who
saying.
says it's a good stock? The business who started telling everyone, hey, we got a good stock, buy our stock. It's who advertises their item. Doesn't necessarily mean the item is good. Who has the best advertising agency?
Mm-hmm. Well, who controls that? The stock. Like, that's one big stock take has been done the last 3-4 years, still going on.
Well, there's one thing that people I don't think recognize the actual impact of advertising agents and their crucial and critical role in business. So I'll tell you how I know this, because it was in Bewitched. That was Darren's job. He was an advertising agent. And that plays along with the show in general, the concept of the show, the witchcraft that is made in
Bewitched.
the boardroom.
Bewitched.
And the idea that my hand gesture to sell this speech is as important as my tag, my logo, my motto, all of those things. And that's what advertisement agencies do. And a good advertiser agent knows what cues in this logo are going to unconsciously unlock the idea of this, or what sounds to take advantage of, or
That's the propaganda. You know,
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's
They
just
understand
everything we're
human
Yeah,
behavior.
exactly. Just what
Yeah.
the
throwing rotten vegetables at us.
Well, he knows the narrative. He knows what the cards are coming out. So he'll just spin you a story. All he needs to do is be good at spinning you a story. Oh, really go
Yeah.
away.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's all the trickster's doing. He knows the trick. How can I perform the trick now for my public? We all, you know what I mean? That's to
Right.
say, if you know the trick and you're sitting there, isn't that not what Penn and Teller do?
Right.
Is that? But they know the trick. And who's the most inventive with that trick?
Right. Well,
You
there's
know what I
only
mean? Like-
so many tricks. There's only
Yeah.
a dictionary worth of. So how do you move that word around to give it a new meaning? How do you redo that trick so that
Yeah.
it's not sawing a woman in half? You're sawing a bunny in half this time, or you're sawing, or maybe you're using a hatchet, or maybe so we can only, but the basics of the trick is always there.
Well, it's like that 9/11.
Root word.
9/11, and you showed me the bridge.
Yeah.
And people don't get. Yeah, you can do it. They done it
They didn't.
because
They
when I
had a
was
lot of
talking,
practice.
well, I was actually talking to a bloke who said he was there. Right,
Mhm.
that he was living in the States at the time.
Mhm.
I think you met him one time on the phone,
Mhm.
and we were talking, and he says, "I seen it. What are you fucking on about it?" And I says, "You actually." Well, I was there when I got to talk. You know what I mean? I heard it going above my head.
Right.
I says, "But you told me you've seen it. You're telling everyone you've seen that now."
Right.
That's why I was interested
Right.
to ask you that. What did you see?
Right.
You know, like, so
What did you see?
you didn't see it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So your whole, you know, like what you're talking about. And he did have to admit that, like, well, I never said I seen it.
Mhm.
Well, as far as that's what
That's a benefit. And in magic, they took advantage of the height because people aren't looking up. So nobody saw it.
Yeah.
Everybody heard it and then looked up. Nobody is staring. There was probably a handful of people in all New York City that actually witnessed a plane go into it, who happened to be looking out their window with a cup of coffee at the exact moment. They didn't have a camera though. And so we don't have any video of this. The odds are, so like that making the London Bridge disappear. I took advantage of the perspective most people had, which was looking down or looking straight ahead. And I took advantage that they're not looking straight above them. And in a city, that would be neck wrenching to see up. So everyone who claims they saw it never saw anything. They heard it. and looked up. That would be like that, taking advantage.
Oh, were you walking
of
around?
the,
Do you walk around like that
Right.
normally? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's what I just thought it was strange, and Jesus. So most people's
a
stories.
dictionary. That's pretty good, Bri. Advertise we're using child psychology to sell toys. I remember when we were kids, we learned that all the sugary cereals and the candy were always at kid level, not adult level. So at the checkouts, it's always where the kid is holding mommy's hand that the chocolate bars are. That was an intent to drive mothers crazy in the shopping store, to get them to buy their kid a present in order to get them to shut up while they were on their way home. And it worked. It worked so much. We have a whole generation of meetings, 3 of them, so, and every parent knew it. And instead of saying, to the stores, I'm not going to shop in your store with my children anymore if you don't move the sugary cereals, and that store then being forced by the fact that no one wants to shop in it, that they move to the higher shelf. But they didn't. We allowed it. We accepted it as just the new norm, that the sugary cereals would be at the bottom, the candy be at the checkout. That's just the way it is. There's nothing I can do about it. But if I had said, no, I won't shop in this store, and all of us moms said, we're not shopping in that store, it's frustrating for me. I have to tell my kid no, they have a temper tantrum.
Keep falling for it. Keep falling for it.
But we accepted it as a normal
now, well, now you
part
only
of
have
life.
one. Now you've only one store to go to, and you have to be good to them. You know what I mean? I discovered
But that's
that
what
myself.
we're coming into.
Post office was in a shop,
Right.
the nearest place to me, right? So if I
Sure.
wanted to use that post office, which I did, I'd run the gauntlet of not the post office, the person who owned the post office was the shop. And I'm not an auditor. I'm not an auditor, right? I don't know the fucking laws to turn around and say, listen, yeah. So a mask mandate was made on the shop. I'm barred out of the shop because I can't. I'm not going to fucking. I don't need someone to go and do me fucking shopping for me. So now I can't use the post office as well. So isn't that mad?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they put that in there. But you're not. You can. But he's not letting me, and he's going to ring the police for me if I come into his shop and I have to go in. But if I knew the law, I could have got away with that. Yeah, I could have. But why would you, in a normal society, have to go through, be an auditor, recite laws? You're not allowed to do all that. The same cunts one time actually, they were that bad. They see me coming and they sent the manageress over, whatever she was. Can you not see the sign? And I pointed to me, right? You know what I mean? She pointed to the sign and says, "Please wash your hands." I said, my hands are dirty. That's a bit presumptuous of you. Right, you know what I mean? Fuck's sake. These people are fucking stupid. Like they live by them signs and fucking they have to be told these things direct. I'm just saying, advertisement. Wow.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
This is a stay away. Do you see what you just did there when you did your hand gesture? You're come tell me I'm getting it on top of me, and then
close down. Close the show down.
Beautiful. You probably remembers in Ireland, the sweets were removed from the checkouts for that reason. So that happened to you? Were you lucky enough?
What?
Were sweets removed from the checkouts because of children's and parents? But was it in fact the mothers complaining, Jerry? Was it in fact citizens saying, no, we are not going to do this anymore? Or did they, why,
we've seen what the advertisers
was it governments that say it's bad for children's teeth? I mean, who came out and said that?
When people realized, I suppose, what the game they were playing, look at these bastards keeping.
Did they stop
when you're
outside
when
the
you're
shop?
standing in a queue,
right,
and your child is there, gimme in the queue, they're going to be scoffed. How are you going to keep a crying child away from sweets that low?
Right.
You're not allowed to have them outside anymore.
Right.
Because there's lunatics robbing them. You know what I mean?
Lunatics.
Huh? A simple solution.
Humans who are going to steal sweets because they taste good and they're not allowed to have it. That's what society hands you. Stealing is necessity or
An art form.
thrill. Exactly, an art form. Right. I think that's interesting. The videos coming out. I've seen them in America where there's just vigilantes basically going around and standing outside Walmarts and catching people that are walking out without paying for their under $500 worth of merchandise in their cart. And if they catch someone who's taking food, and legit food, like not a crate of soda, but someone who has bread, cheese, and sandwich meat. And if that's what they're stealing, they let them go on their way. They don't even bother them. They don't even bother them. They take the food, go on. I'm hungry. That's all you got? You got nothing else? Nope, go on. But if they're stealing other things, so what this guy is deciding justice in his own way. He's deciding who gets to leave the store with this cart and who doesn't, depending on what they're buying. So what sin is, is it a sin to steal if you're starving? Well, the Bible has some interesting things to say about that. Because you're guilty of sin if you cause another to sin. So by making, it where people are hungry and therefore feel the need to steal in the first place, then it is the business that is actually guilty of that sin and not the person.
Well, if they're feeding
themselves.
someone's fucking habit, yes, of course they are. And when they're giving you free, that's what I say. When it came here in the sea, well, from the 70s, free shares they were giving us, and you're getting your addiction, storing your addiction. Look, get ahead of the game here.
On a game show, though.
Yeah,
it's on a game
shows.
show, right? Giving you away some.
Look how you can make money. You don't have to be fucking like, you know what I mean? Hey.
It was advertisement. I'm investment groups. Can I get some of my shares on a game show? Could we give away some shares in our company on a game show? Let's get people involved. I need people participating. Excellent idea. I'm calling Alex right now. We'll Tribeca that this afternoon. Classic concentration.
Well, that's when you got the.
I mean, the name of the show is Classic Concentration.
When you got your Yopi, that's what came with the Yopi. They were just a fucking salesman selling it.
Yeah.
That's all they were. They were sold that idea. You don't you'll never have to fucking break into a sweat in your life.
Mm-hmm.
All that you have to do is fucking buy these things. You know what I mean? They're second-hand car salesmen. Just that's all they are. They'll sell you shite, any old shite at all. Yeah. If you're a big enough fool to buy it,
right?
You know what I mean? Like that's what I say to the poor man who's after getting all these tools robbed, right? And then he goes to a fence and buys new fucking tools. I said, they're probably your own fucking tools. If you weren't buying them off the fence, they wouldn't be robbing them because there's no one to sell them to.
Right, the fences.
You know what I mean?
Right,
no, but you're the fucking idiots. Don't come crying.
Well, the fence
and then
would be
where do you have to go to?
Pawn shops.
Insurance.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's nowhere else. No, give me fucking a nice.
Well, I think that's interesting that you say that because in business, they already know they already know they're surrounded by criminals. Yeah. So they know people are going to be stealing from them. So to create insurance in its Freemasonic origins is a way of basically saying, I've already accepted that people are going to steal from me. So here's my insurance on that theft.
Yeah.
So if I am robbed, I just call up my buddy and he says, don't worry, we got you covered.
Yeah. The Pinkertons. Is that what we just had here?
And I think that's insurance fraud. But the businesses are working with it's a stacked deck. This guy goes on to say, it's a stacked deck. Like he can deal his friends. Hang on. Yeah, I think the next one is he shows you can deal his friends.
Now, with level 10, we're not going to introduce any new techniques, but instead we're going to combine all of these techniques into one final demonstration. And in order to do so, I'll use the game of Bridge. All you have to know about Bridge is that there are 4 players, and that each player gets 13 cards. So I'm going to give these cards some shuffles and cuts. And afterwards, I'm going to put a cut card on the bottom of the deck, just like I did before. And hopefully, with those stacking shuffles, those false cuts, and some perfect interlaces of cards within those shuffles, and some crooked deals now, I should be able to deal myself the best possible bridge hand, starting with the Ace of Spades, followed by the 2 of Spades, followed by the 3 of Spades, followed by the 4 of Spades, and the 5 of Spades, and the 6 of Spades, and the 7 of Spades, and the 8 of Spades, and the 9 of Spades, and the 10 of Spades, and the Jack of Spades, and the Queen of Spades and the King of Spades. But I would be a poor cheat if I didn't stack some good cards for my friends here. That's why I gave this player here the King of Clubs and the Queen of Clubs and the Jack of Clubs and the Ten of Clubs and the 9 and the 8 and the 7 and the 6 and the 5, the 4, the 3, the 2, and the Ace, all in perfect numerical order. I gave this player over here all 13 diamonds in perfect numerical order, and for my partner sitting right across from me, the second highest ranking suit, the King to Ace of Hearts. And that's 10 levels of sleight of hand with cards.
I spelt Freemasonry wrong, but you get it. Freemasonry. That's that brotherly love. Everyone is getting the perfect hand.
Yeah.
But this deal, I'm getting the perfect hand. And so I'm going to win this round. And then the next time we've drawn straws at the Freemasonic Lodge, and Steve is going to get the best hand. And now he's going to get something. I know. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? The leaves. Oh man. Anyway, I think that's we've probably hashed this to bits.
Yeah.
For a couple of hours. Fun things to think about. I'll throw a couple links in for further research if anyone is interested. Let's see. This one.
Hey, Jerry. I just see you there. Yeah. Bright. Is still there?
This is one I'm going to probably read later. I found this to be an interesting article, but I'm throwing it up there anyway right now.
Jerry, son of Mick. Tavistock. What was the name of that? Like, I was just looking at who, what's his name that worked for Russell Brand. His agency was Tavistock Wood.
Tavistock Wood.
Before they were bought up.
Mm-hmm.
But he was still working for the same people. But an interesting name to call your agency.
What's the meaning behind that?
Which?
Tavistock.
Tavistock.
Tavis.
It's a name that keeps coming up. Tavistock.
Okay. I mean, you know, if we broke the word
Tavistock
down.
Institute.
Okay.
You see it there actually. I'll break it down again. You'll see.
Okay.
Gonna go into it here.
Right. And the last link I'm going to throw in is another one I'm going to talk about because it's relevant to hand signs and cards, is the development of fine motor skills. And then I thought it was interesting to look at those hand gestures and placements of the chakras, as if that's kind of, I don't know, open thought there, you know, free flow, open thought. But, you know, could that also be, you know, something that's there, you know, because they do tend to have locations and whatever. But anyway.
Cheers, Bright.
Mm-hmm.
Hello again.
Hello
Robin.
again. So yeah, that's that. So 2 hours. I'll end this. That was fun. And yeah, we'll bounce out because Bad Dog was here.
Yeah, dog. How's it going? Long time no see.
Yeah. So we'll do a bounce out. I'll throw the goodbyes up in the chat or up on the screen. And if you have some interesting videos or channels or things or links or articles or whatever, PDFs, things that you've recently come across you want to share, now is your time. So give us all something to think about before you go. Thank you, Bri. It says Tavistock is the behavioral arm of the crown. Oh. A behavioral arm. What would you say that is? Explain that to me. I love you. The faces you make. That was great.
Yeah, you just had to laugh as you put me on the fucking spot.
I know.
You
I'm sorry.
me and
I
my
didn't mean
biases.
to.
Yes.
Yes, true. Okay.
It's a pleasure, but come and fucking join us. The fuck.
Yes, it's way more fun
Yeah.
when more people are involved.
Well, we don't take ourselves too serious.
It's making love when it's two. It's an orgy when it's a group. So, you know, there's snacks involved that way. All right. Oh, it's a behavioral science institute. Okay, thank you. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, now you've piqued my interest. That is, so I'm gonna have to go look at the Travis Stock Institute. I get you. I keep calling it Travis.
Yeah, that's why I
right?
never found it before.
I have a brother named Travis. Maybe that's why. Travis. I gotta get it in my head different. Okay, it's the tentacle of the controls. Beautiful. Okay, still love that.
Tentacle.
Right.
Exactly, Jerry.
8 arms. What did one octopus say to the other octopus? I want to hold your hand, your hand, your hand, your hand. Hold your hand. That's 2 octopi, 8 businesses coming together to, you know, make swishy, bubbly love.
Mm.
Give us a hand there. Good answer. Good answer. All right. See yous. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. And we'll see you later.
This public service announcement is brought to you by Rotten Studios. Remember, no contact is the road to freedom.